In this video, we're going to talk about cross tabulation in Excel using pivot tables. And we're going to talk about different things that you can do in pivot tables. We're going to talk about sorting, grouping, filtering. And for this, we're going to use data file restaurants. So I have the file here. Here I have the list of 300 restaurants, let's say at San Diego County. And for these restaurants, for each one of these restaurants, I have the quality rating. And the quality rating can be good, very good, or excellent. One of these three classes. And then I have the meal price, average meal price in each one of these restaurants. And I have the wait time, the average wait time in each one of these restaurants. So now I'm going to use pivot tables to cross tabulate. And when we are talking about cross tabulation, we are basically tabulation. We are summarizing a table based on one or, I mean, in Excel up to two, but usually based on one or multiple factors. I mean, if you use other like coding languages, you may want to use multiple, not just two. But in Excel, pivot table can visualize up to two, can use up to two variables based on one or two columns. So that's what we want to do. No wrapping, and then, all right. So I want to summarize this table based on quality rating. And let's just count the number of restaurants in each, count the number of restaurants in each quality rating group, right? So I want to know how many good restaurants I have, how many very good restaurants, and how many excellent restaurants, just to start. And then we get to more complicated stuff that we can do using pivot table. So I mean, I can use count if function, count if, and then count if in this range, the number of good, and another one, count if for the number of very good, and another count if for excellent one. But I'm going to use, this time I'm going to use pivot table. For pivot table, you just need to click on one cell, any cell on this table, and then go to the Insert tab. Click on the pivot table. What it does, and as you can see here, it senses the whole table, anything that is connected to this cell, and senses the whole table, put it here, A1 to D301. That's our range. I don't want to go to another sheet or another file. I want to put it in the same sheet. So I click here, existing worksheet, and location somewhere on this sheet, like G5. And for now, that's okay. Okay. So once you do that, it'll open a pivot table form with the with the window like this. You will have 4 sub windows. You will have rows, columns, and values, and then if you want to put any filter here. So we're gonna talk about each one of these, but for now, like I said, we want to have count of quality rating. We want to count this table, count the number of rows in each quality rating. We basically want to summarize this table based on quality rating. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the quality rating from here, click on it, hold, drag, drop it here under rows sub window here, right? So once you do that, it creates a table with the distinct values, unique values that you have in this column under quality rating here, and puts each one of them as a separate row. So now the table is ready to be summarized based on these, like the values, distinct values in this column. Now, I just want to count the number of restaurants in each group. So I just need to, in values, which is going to be right in front of these three, I want to count. But what am I going to count? Count the number of, I count the number of same thing, quality rating. I just need to add something in this window. Let's say, I'm going to put restaurant here, but that doesn't, as long as you don't have any missing values, that's any of those will work if you put it here. So by default, this is a numerical value. And when you add a numerical value, a numerical variable to your values window here, it'll basically, by default, it'll calculate the sum. But that's not what I want. I want to take the count. So I need to change the function to the count. If you click on this under the values here, if you click on it, value field setting, and then you'll see the name of it, sum of restaurant. This is not what I want. I want it to be count of restaurants in each group. And then I need to change the function to count. I want to count them. But as you can see here, there are a bunch of simple functions, relatively simple functions: average, maximum, minimum, product, multiplication, and count of numbers, standard deviation of population, variance of population, right? So I just want to go, I just pick the count, and I think I'm good to go. I don't need to change the format. If we need, we can set it here. But for now, I'm good to go. Okay. So out of 300 grand total restaurant that I have here in my count, 66 of them are excellent, 84 of them are good, 150 of them are very good. That's exactly what I was looking for. If I want to show it in terms of percentage, I come back again here, value field setting. Here, show values as. You can click on that, and then right now there's no calculation. It's simple count, but you can change it to, like, you have percentage option. You can change it to percentage of grand total, and it'll give you basically proportion of each group here, right? So this is when you have one factor. You may want to add another factor to the row, and then for each one you'll have, since we don't have another class, both of the other factors that we have here are numerical. I'm not going to do that, but just maybe to show you what happens. If you do that under excellent, again, all distinct values of the second value on the row will take one row, one separate row under each one of these classes under the first row. So we have, for the first row, for quality rating, we have excellent, good, and very good. Under each one of them, depending on, for each distinct value in the second row, there will be a separate row under each one of them. So excellent with a meal price of 13. This is the percentage of the restaurant in this graph. But I'm gonna remove it here. I'm gonna remove it from here. And the way you remove a factor from here, you can take it again, drag it back to where it belongs, like the list of variables. All right. So now let me just change it. We'll do something else. So what I want to do now, I have the quality rating in my rows. I'm gonna do, I want to know, now I want to use two factors. I want to summarize my table based on two factors. I want to know for each quality rating and for each meal price range, like groups, different groups, I have to do a grouping here. What is the average wait time? So I'm gonna get rid of this count and I'm gonna add wait time. Or, I mean, before I do the value, before I do the calculation, here you see the table is pretty long here. That's not what I want. When you have numerical values like this, and it's all over the place. You see, we have numbers from 10 all the way to like 48. These are the dollar values, the average meal prices. So I want to group these values. The way you can do that is by right-clicking on one of these values, any of those. Right-click and then group. So Excel suggests like a grouping depending on the values, depending on the lower and upper. It suggests something. If you like it, just press OK. If you don't like it, you can just adjust it. This feels good, starting at 10 and group by 10. So you can just do that. And since these are integer numbers, you have 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30, 39, 40, 49, and that's it. So 4 groups, right? If you want to make it 5 groups, you may want to change the size to 8, for example, right? So if you want to, you can ungroup again. You don't have to go with that. You may want to change it again to, I don't know, 8 groups, for example. That'll give you another one. But I'm going to stick to the same thing, to what Excel originally suggested. So I have quality rating, and I have the meal price. Now I want to know, so I have how many different groups? So I summarized this table. I basically classified all my restaurant into 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times 3. So now I have, if you look closely here, we have 3 by 4, 12 different groups, 12 different cells here. And for each one of these groups, all the excellent restaurant with the meal price of 10 to 90. You may want to just count the restaurant. Again, we do exactly the same thing. One of these columns, doesn't matter which one, just change the function to the count. And it's going to give you out of 300. We already know, well, I mean, we just did it, 66 excellent, 84 good, etc. And now we know out of 300, 78 of them, their meal price is between 10 to 20, 10 and 19. I mean, these are integer numbers. 118 of them are between, their meal prices between 20 and 29, and so on. And on top of that, we know that there are 2 excellent restaurants with the average meal price of 10 to 19, right? We know there is no good restaurants with the average meal price of 40 to 49. So this is something that we know, right? So this is something that we can get. But I'm gonna get another thing, and I'm just gonna find the average wait time for these restaurants. So I have the sum of wait time. I'm gonna change it to average, And when you change it to average, just look here how the numbers are going to be like so many decimals, right? So I may want to change the format here. You may want to change the format. I'm just going to use the numbers with 2 decimals. That's all I'm going to do. But you have all the options when it comes to changing the number format, the value, the format of the value in each one of these cells. So that's what I want to do here. And you may also want to do this, but all my numbers are below 100, so that doesn't affect anything. So, okay. So now I have average of wait time for different quality restaurant and different quality rating, and for different restaurants with different meal prices. So average waiting time for restaurants whose meal price is between 10 to 19 is 7.55 minutes. Total average wait time of all these 300 restaurants is 13.92. The average wait time for the excellent restaurant is 32.12, and so on, right? So these are, for example, this one, average wait time for the excellent restaurant whose meal price is between 10 and 19 is 25.5. So that is how we can basically cross-tabulate the table in a smaller table, in a pivot table. That's how we do it, using 2 columns, right? Okay, so we have this. Another thing that we may want to do, so we already know how to group. We just click here, ungroup, group. You may want to change the grouping and so on, right? Another thing that you may want to do is sorting these tables. So this is now, these are sorted based on, I believe based on it's alphabetically sorted. You may want to change it based on these numbers, meal prices in the first column. So what you can do, you just right click here and press sort. For example, largest to smallest. And as you can see here, this is largest to smallest. And you can do it for each one of these columns. So this is in terms of sorting. Now, in terms of filtering this table, we have 2 filter drop-down lists here. So one for the rows column, the column that you put for the rows, and one for the columns that you put it here, the meal price, right? So for example, for this one, excellent, very good, and good, if you want to filter those values, you may want to only show the excellent ones. This is a categorical value. You may want to just go with the excellent, for example. If you want to clear out the filter, you clear the filter. You may want to go with only 2 of them, or 3 of them, or just 1 of them. You may want to go with, again, you may, depending on the case, depending on the values, you may want to use other types of filter here that I'm not going to do that, but I mean, if you have value, if you have numerical, you may want to pick a specific value. Like here, you may want to do that. Again, you have the option to pick each one of these classes, or you may want to just go with only the numbers that are above a certain value, or below a certain value, or between 2 specific values, and so on. Or if you have label, if you have text, you may want to just go with, I mean, this doesn't work because these are numbers, but here we had them label, yes. If the text starts with a specific value, or ends with a specific value, or does not contain or contains a specific text. So these are the types of filter that you can apply. So we Now we know how to sort, we know how to filter. So these are, so if you want to sort, if you want to filter based on these two factors, meal price and quality rating, this is how you do it. So they're already built in your pivot table. But if you, let's say, if you want to filter based on the wait time, this is something that you don't have it in rows and columns here, right? So for these ones, you have the option, you have the drop down list. But for the wait time, if you want to filter for the wait time, let's say for a specific value of wait time, and you don't have it in the rows and columns, you don't have this drop down list, what you can do, you can just pick it, put it in here under filters, right? So you have it here, and it adds the drop down list for this one as well. So now for this one, you have the option to, for example, pick a specific range, for example. So you may want to pick one or multiple values. Let's say all the way to 10. Only these small values of wait time, and you see the table gets updated, only showing the small wait time, only showing the wait times less than, I believe, less than 10, right? Positive wait times less than or equal to 10. That way your table gets updated. But again, depending on the case, you may want to filter. You may have a region that you may want to filter and you're not using it as rows or columns. So you may want to put it here, and it gives you something like a slicer in dashboards where you can select the value and filter the whole table or graph based on that. So that's basically what it does.